Welcome to DreamSpeak. Before we get started, we'd like to thank our listeners in Dallas, Lyon, France, Mississauga, Canada, and Westervoort, the Netherlands. Thank you so much and keep dreaming.
Hi, dreamers. Thank you for learning with us today on DreamSpeak. I'm Rika,
And I'm Thomas.
and this is the podcast about dreams that teaches you a complete system to help you listen to your dreams and get the guidance they're providing you every day.
Celebrities, they're everywhere. Television, TikTok, maybe even in your house. Travis Kelce moved in with our guest Missy Lee in her dream and became part of the family. If you love love too, stay tuned. We're very pleased today to have Missy Lee on the show. Missy is somebody who I know and respect, and I thought maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit. Where do you come from and what do you do for a living?
So I was born in Alaska, and I was raised in a very small town there until I was about 9 or 10. And then I moved to Colorado with my mother, then would visit my father in Alaska during the summers. So I had a very unique upbringing there in a rural place. And then I graduated from high school and college in Grand Junction, Colorado. But in the meantime, spent time living in Brazil, spent time living in South Korea, traveled to 23 different countries or so. So I'm an adventurous soul.
Wow, that's a lot. And
Yeah.
you don't seem to be that old either. I'm 41. Us. You've covered a lot of ground in your 41 years.
I have, but there's so much more to see and do.
You are your father's daughter.
Yes, and if you knew my mother as well, she's also very adventurous. She's actually a pilot as well.
Yet, say a little bit about that
Yeah.
mention of Alaska for you.
So I grew up flying airplanes with my dad. He's a very famous bush pilot for Alaska. And then my mom also has her private pilot's license. I mean, my uncle flies. I have cousins. My brother flies. Everybody flies, basically.
That's the only way to get around there, right?
It really, 83% of communities in Alaska are only accessible by aircraft. So it is the aviation mecca.
Mm-hmm.
And they also started ski flying to be able to go on the mountains. I mean, it's a very unique place up there. So very thankful for that upbringing because you're just wild and free and there's a strong community. But as a child, you're able to wander and experiment and go in the woods and just have an imagination. So I'm very thankful for the way I grew up and for my family. My mom's side of the family is actually very adventurous as well. My grandfather, her father, was the very first surgeon ever in Alaska.
Wow.
And my grandmother was a college professor. And my uncle, my mom's brother, was a mountain guide for many years on Denali. So both sides of the family are extremely adventurous. So it's in my blood.
That's a great way for a kid to grow up.
It is. Yep.
I wish more kids had that opportunity to just be wild and free.
I agree.
And you're providing that for your son.
Yes, I have a 14-year-old son, and he is awesome. I spent the last 7 summers in Alaska working, and he would be up there with me as well. He has a 4-wheeler and a fishing boat, flies airplanes, and he lived this amazing life up there. So I was able to give him some of what I got growing up, which I'm extremely thankful for.
Wonderful.
So we're talking about opportunities and the way that it affects our lives. And you have a really strong calling to work with kids that don't always have the most opportunities in life. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started with that and what you do and that kind of thing?
Definitely. So I really actually struggled in school when I was younger. I had a really hard time reading and got made fun of and actually ended up being taken out of school for a year doing homeschool, but my mom was working. Is when my parents got divorced and a single mom, and it was really a crazy time in my life. So I do know what it feels like to struggle in school, and I feel like that has helped me a lot as an educator to have a deep sense of empathy for so many kids who struggle. I work now with the most at-risk 7th and 8th grade students who have a lot of struggles. A lot of struggles at home, a lot of struggles at school, struggles in so many ways. And so my struggles in a lot of different ways have helped me reach those kids on a different level. But I've always wanted to be a teacher. So in 7th grade, a science teacher let me teach the class for a day. And my principal came in and observed me teaching, and it was on the food chain. And I brought in a snake that ate a cricket. We had notes and discussions and a quiz and everything. And he wrote my mom a letter and said that watching me teach was the highlight of his whole career. Oh, like
Gosh.
that is always been my calling. So I've done a lot of things in the meantime, but it's always led back to teaching. And so I'm in a different capacity. I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I work with kids a lot more in small groups and one-on-one. But that for sure is my calling in life. There's no doubt.
Oh, wow.
Well, we're coworkers, and I know what a relationship builder you are, and I know what a magnet your room is for students in need, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. What we do is we would like to ask our guests to just tell us about the dream. So this is the one that you had where Travis Kelce lived with you.
So I think this dream is hilarious because, well, I'm kind of a Swiftie. So I love Taylor Swift. I always have. I got to see her live actually in Dublin. I was there with a group of high school students as a leader of a traveling trip, and she was playing right down the road. And I actually ended up ditching the students with Run the Parrots, Run to the Depths. But I love Taylor Swift. So the dream was about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, but Travis Kelce was in my home with my mother and my son and I, and he was cooking breakfast and just kind of part of the family. And I remember just being like, oh, this is so wonderful. And then there was a flower delivery. My mom thought that it was flowers for my grandmother who had already passed. So I was like, Mom, these are not flowers from grandma, because there was like a coded poem. So they were flowers from Taylor Swift to Travis Kelce in my home.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a coded poem. And I'm like, this is definitely from Taylor for Travis. So I'm trying to convince my mom that these flowers are for him. And then I think Taylor ended up coming to the house too. And we were just like family, friends and family. And I woke up and just thought it was hilarious because I love Taylor and Travis, and I always follow their love story, and I'm so happy for them. I love love. And so it was just an interesting dream.
Super interesting.
So was this after her album came out?
This was before, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do love the new album.
All right. So
Okay, well, we need to clarify one point before they interpret this. What did your mom think the flowers were?
They thought they were sent from my grandmother,
From your grandmother.
who is deceased.
Right. So your mom thought that they came from your deceased grandmother for her?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That's helpful.
Or, well, I'm actually not sure who.
She thought they were for.
Maybe they were for the family from her or something. So I'm not exactly sure if the flowers
Might have been
she
for the
thought
whole
the
family.
flowers were for her.
Okay.
So after you had this dream, did you do any interpretation or did you have any ideas of what you think it means?
There are so many dreams that I have no idea where to even start. And so many dreams that have meant something so different than a literal interpretation that I've thought. So I am a baby dream speaker. I've learned so much from Thomas from a few dreams he's worked with me on, but I really don't know much. So many dreams, he got me recording them, which was so helpful. So I started recording them. Many of them I have no recollection of the dream whatsoever. But I'm a very vivid dreamer. I dream a lot. I dream about all kinds of really strange things. And so with this, I don't even know where to start.
I want to know what this means.
It makes me happy. I'm like, because my son was like, Mom, you think Taylor Swift's like your best friend? It was so funny. And I'm like, you don't even understand.
Or maybe he understands better than you.
Good. Yeah, you never know. It's either one or the other usually. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it means. The grandmother part I haven't put much thought into, and it was a happy dream and a funny dream, and waking up and kind of chuckling at like Travis and Taylor being part of my family was always a good dream.
Totally. What a good dream, right?
Yeah.
So this is a great opportunity to talk about how emotions help us interpret dreams, because they are one of the most helpful sort of piece of information. So you know that this was a happy dream.
Mhm.
Okay. So that could mean one of two things. Luckily, they're both positive things. So don't worry. These are definitely good things. But emotions work on one of two levels in a dream. Sometimes both. They either help us to connect it back to our waking life. And if that's the case, then an emotion that you remember from a dream will match an emotion that you had when you were awake. if that makes sense. So it's like an anchor point to be like, this was the situation that triggered this message for you. Okay. So that's one possibility. But there's another one, which is interesting. So when we experience deep feelings of joy or bliss, sometimes it's this other meaning. And what it is we are essentially beings of spirit, and we all have a sense of our core principles and what we think life is really about. So let's talk about the opposite for a minute. If you feel intense negative emotions in a dream, including disgust, I just did a dream interpretation for somebody where there was a strong vibration of disgust that they remembered. It was because they had done themselves a moral injury. So something that seemed like a small decision when they were awake, their dream really wanted to draw attention to, you really felt badly about this. Like you really felt like there was something that you needed to make amends for. It wasn't a little thing like you thought it was in the moment. It's really troubling you. The opposite of that is if you feel waves of like bliss or joy or whatever, you may have kind of done yourself a moral enhancement, like you're living your own principles, living your best life in modern parlance, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Does it?
Now for me, actually.
Does that resonate?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So in the aviation industry in Alaska, it was quite stressful. And so I actually have just sold my business and I sold my house up there and I'm spending more time in Colorado and then refocused kind of on being an educator. And I have a new love of my life and a lot of different really positive things. So life for me right now is I can't imagine it getting much better, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That makes my heart really happy.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. Your soul is trying to, aside from all the other imagery in the stream, your soul with that vibration is trying to say, you are on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing right now. It's nourishing you.
Yep. That makes total sense.
Pretty cool, right?
Very cool.
Okay.
Love it.
So yeah, let's talk about specifics now. So when there's two aspects that are in a romantic relationship, of course, they're parts of you, just like everything in the dream, but they are creating life experiences in your life. Whenever there's like a strong commitment between two aspects of us, it's trying to get us to understand what are these parts of me? And then from there, you can kind of be like, well, what are they creating? What kinds of changes are they bringing about? That sort of thing. There is an additional wrinkle in this we have to consider until we get it sorted out, which I'm confident we will. So there's two possible types of aspects that Travis and Taylor could be for you. They could be regular aspects of you, which would mean that Travis would be a part of your subconscious, which can be a very powerful part of us, but we're often not aware of it. So dreams help us understand those subconscious parts of ourselves.
And he's part of your subconscious because he's the opposite gender. That's how we figured that out.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. And so Taylor then would be part of her consciousness because the gender matches.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really helpful tip.
It is. And it's kind of challenging when you're first doing dream interpretation to keep that in mind.
Great.
You know, to understand that concept.
Okay.
But you're doing amazing learning your dream interpretation. But yeah, the first gateway a lot of people have to pass through is being like, yeah, these aren't those people. They're parts of me. Like that's a real stumper for a lot of people.
Yes.
But you seem to be getting that, no problem. The next gateway is this opposite gender rule, is what we call it, is understanding, okay, it's a male, it's going to be a part of your subconscious. It's a female, it's going to be some part of your conscious, something that you're more aware of. So we'll piece all that together, but there's another possibility, and it's really important that we consider it. They may be what are called superconscious aspects, okay? Superconscious aspects are our way of getting messages from our soul about how we see divinity in operation in our world. So that's the best way that I've learned how to say it, because some people don't believe in God. It doesn't change the fact that they have superconscious aspects in dreams, because everyone has beliefs about the way that they believe the universe is working,
Great.
what they think justice means, what they think goodness is, what they think the value of truth or deception is, and the importance of it in our lives. These are aspects of divinity in the eyes of a theist like us, right? Those things relate to God. For some people, they don't.
Right.
But they exist, and we all agree on that common ground that these forces exist in our world.
Usually, a superconscious aspect might show up as a person in a position of authority, like a doctor or a
Lawyer,
policeman,
police.
lawyer, or your parents
Most common.
is the most common.
And so here you have your mom, and I already know that she's going to be a superconscious aspect in the dream. But it's possible that there may be a contrast drawn here with Travis and Taylor, and they may also be superconscious aspects. Dreams do that a lot because it really helps us to understand. They'll give us pairs of things that we're meant to compare and see the differences, and that can help us sometimes. So we don't know yet. So they could be regular aspects of you, but I'm not getting that intuitively. I'm getting that they're probably superconscious aspects. You kind of put them on a pedestal, don't you?
Who doesn't?
Or fair play. But no, I mean, that's kind of a big clue that they're probably representing superconscious aspects. And that can be really meaningful dreams when we dream of superconscious aspects, because it literally helps us understand how we're seeing truth, how we're seeing the way that the universe works, what we think is right, what we think is wrong, what we think is true. I mean, it's that simple. So we're going to analyze this. I bet you didn't think Travis Kelce had anything to do with your attitude towards God.
I did not.
Well, one thing that I noticed you said earlier was that you love love. I think that's kind of a key here.
She's 100% right. That is a great, great pickup, because that's probably right at the core of your personal beliefs.
Mm-hmm. That's been a challenge, though, throughout my life in a lot of different ways.
How let down would you be if Travis and Taylor broke up tomorrow?
I might seriously cry. Which is so crazy that you care so much about these people that don't even know who you are or aren't a part of your life. And that's what my 14-year-old likes to point out to me. However, life is hard enough. You want to see good things happen to people. You want to see love happen to people. You want to see people find their person. You want to see people get the job, get the promotion. I love people succeeding and positive things happening to other people. So it's not just necessarily about Travis and Taylor. I love that for everybody. I'm a big cheerleader kind of a person. Like, I just love seeing people happy and seeing good things happen.
And you love that for yourself, too.
Of course. But that's
where the challenges lie.
there have been some real tough times in my life for sure, even fairly recently. So I've just been through a lot. So I think that makes me that much more happy for when things are good. I had a friend who went through a really dark time, and she said this quote that I will never forget. And it's like, the depth of your despair is inversely related to the height of joy that you can feel. And I just loved that, because it's like when you're in despair, it is really hard to see that good things can come out of that when you're in it. But when you look back on it and you're at a totally different place, you're like, wow, I'm so thankful for that difficult time, because it taught me so much about myself or people or your own personal growth. So if you don't have those times, how do you relate to people? How do you have empathy for people? How do you grow as a person? And so having that perspective is really important. But when you're in it, it's real hard to see.
For sure.
That's beautifully said. This is intriguing. My intuition is speaking really loudly, and I see the girl that you were when you were little under your dad's care. And this has been like your core learning for your entire life, is how do you navigate being let down in love, whether it's in a romantic relationship or not, in any relationship. How do you move forward and still love with an open heart when you've been betrayed,
Yeah,
let down?
that's the question.
This dream is about that. It's okay.
I always cry when you're terrified, because they literally nothing like I think they mean. You're like, this was a fun dream. No, but I'm also like, you don't know me very well, Ricka, but I'm also an open book. Like, I'm fine with crying on the podcast. Oh, goodness.
The thing is, like, you're going to leave this very joyful, because it's exactly what you already said at the beginning. Your dream is trying to give you a progress report and saying, you've got this.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing it. You're doing it just right, because that has been the lesson that's been laid out in front of you, and you've learned it.
Yay.
It's amazing, right?
I promise that's a big part of what this dream is saying. That much is already really clear. You need to be super proud of yourself. I know a lot of people, maybe including me, to be continued, who haven't learned their core lessons, right? That's a challenge for each and every individual, is to take that thing, take that ball, run with it, and have the courage to learn And it is not easy. It doesn't matter what our core lesson is. It is going to be really freaking hard for us at times. And you have learned a lot about what really matters, what you really came here to learn.
I have. Yeah. I feel like I live with my life, generally speaking, with a lot of courage. And that has accelerated those lessons probably, because I'm not afraid to take leaps of faith or travel to different countries alone or take chances. And I feel like that's accelerated it because there's been so much learnings because of that. Where if I lived more cautiously, it might be less painful, but I would not have be where I am now.
And one of the boldest, most courageous choices that you've made is in the face of betrayal and heartbreak to love again.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've done that more than once.
Yes, I have. It is hard. It is very hard being a single mom and letting people into your life. And I can't love anybody half-hearted. It's not like that, even though that looking back, that would have been much easier in a lot of different ways, but it's not how I live my life in any capacity, really. But getting past those heartbreaks and opening yourself up again to new love, it's really hard. And it still is a continual challenge. I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect at that. It's a work in progress, but it's a decision that you make too.
Even every day.
But you don't always feel that way, but you decide.
Well, you have a lot of wisdom to share on that. But in terms of what this dream is giving you, it's telling you that it is a work in progress, but to make sure you understand you have come a tremendous distance and you've got this under control. Like this core thing that makes Missy Missy, you already have that under control and it's going good. Isn't that awesome?
That is really awesome. I love to hear that.
Well, so let's talk some more. So let's figure out the other parts of this dream. So I'm pretty sure there is going to be an important contrast between the family aspect, your mother feeling like there was maybe a message from your grandmother versus Travis and Taylor. Why don't you describe a little bit about what are the first words that come to mind when you think of Travis Kelce? And remember, it's a part of you. This isn't really about Travis Kelce, so just whatever comes out.
Yeah. I love that he supports Taylor so much. Like, it'd be really difficult for a man to be in that position with a performer like she is and how much attention she gets. And like, how would most men even not be jealous or not be worried about her safety all the time? Or it takes somebody with so much confidence in themselves and knowing themselves so well to be able to love somebody like that in that capacity for exactly who they are.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So now tell us something similar about Taylor. What is it that you think of first when you think of Taylor Swift?
She's just such a boss. And I think she's overcome so much. I mean, the music industry also is brutal. Human beings are brutal. I cannot even imagine with everything you produce, there being so many people who are negative or are mean or whatever, and working through that for so many years, and her getting to a point where recently she said, your energy is a luxury, not everyone can afford it. She said this saying, and it's beautiful because she's gotten to a point where you have to rise above all of that. And that is not easy. Most people cannot rise above that kind of criticism or to continually put your work out there. Anybody, if they're an artist, a musician, a painter, a poet, anybody who to me puts themselves out there in that way, a comedian, it is so inspiring because it is a very vulnerable place to be, to put yourself in the world like that. Most people do not live that way because it is very scary. And so I just admire so much her courage. And I just see her as like rising above all of that and being true to herself.
You're describing yourself.
I don't feel like I'm anywhere close to that in so many different ways, but I have overcome a lot of
that
different things.
Yeah, that part. You're talking about you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've overcome a lot. And I know that.
And you keep putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
In a way that exposes you
Mm-hmm.
in public,
Yeah.
doing important, hard things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the work that I do with kids, but I also really love public speaking, and that's something I'd like to do more of. But that would be the same and be very challenging. So
Definitely.
I love
You're
this.
tripping me out though, because this dream is clearly saying that you're ready to take that next step.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that is. I never would have put these pieces together ever. I was just like, what? Travis and Taylor at my house.
We do talk about what houses are. Houses are actually really easy to understand. It's like your normal mindset.
Mm.
That's all it is. So like this infusion of very positive imagery is right there at the core of your consciousness, right? It's really changing the way that you look at the world around you for the better.
Because it was in your own house. So that's your most common mindset is in the house that you live in.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's awesome. And these are definitely super conscious aspects. And essentially what you're doing is you're pairing them together. And I know this is the part where it's a little bit harder to understand for a lot of people, not a few people. Most people struggle with this early on. It took us years to really, I think, lock in this idea. They're not really parts of you. They are comments on how you see the world working. And so what this is showing is that you see the world with a very positive attitude, that it is possible to overcome,
Mhm.
that opportunity exists, that it's possible to persevere, and that it's also possible to have unconditional support from others for your perseverance.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Does it surprise you to hear yourself reflecting that?
I do consider myself extremely resilient. So that part doesn't surprise me. The part about the courage to kind of be open to a relationship and that kind of stuff does a little bit. I feel like I'm doing that, but it's kind of nice to see it in a different light, I suppose.
I want to hear you talk a little bit more about whether you found it surprising that you believe that there's unconditional support available from the world outside yourself.
Yeah, that is a little bit more challenging. My parents are loving for sure, but definitely they've always one of the best things about them. I'll focus on all the good things. One of the best things about both of my parents is they have always believed in me and challenged me to live a big full life. So my dad is the kind of person that's like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And he moved to Alaska when he was 18, started flying airplanes, building log cabins, is the hardest worker I've ever met, but really does truly love what he did. And my mom is surprisingly courageous. She let me go to Nepal and Thailand when I was 14 years old for a month.
Oh,
That a church group from Alaska that she didn't hardly know. And I think about that with my own son, like when I let him miss a month of school and go to a less developed country with a group of people I don't really know. Maybe because I'm my mother's daughter, but that trip completely changed my life. And so I've been born to these two very adventurous souls who have encouraged that in me. And so I'm very thankful for that part. No parent's perfect by any means, me included. I told my son I'd help pay for therapy someday. I'm doing my best. So that's an interesting aspect, I guess, of their relationship with me and that dynamic. But I've also been, in many ways, very parentified and had to take care of myself, basically, for a very long time.
It's interesting that you pivoted right to your parents when I asked you that, because what was in my mind, which is just an imagination, but what was in my mind was more everything that's happened after you left your parents' household.
Mm,
And yet I'm seeing so clearly in the stream that you do believe that outside of you, you can get unconditional support. You know you can get it from inside. And I know you know that. And you also just said that. But this dream is also implying that you see that there's sources of support outside of you. That's an edge for you, isn't it?
in a romantic relationship.
Is it an edge for you in other kinds of relationships?
No, friendships, have no doubt. I am so incredibly blessed with some of the best friends in the entire world, and I consider them my family. And I don't surround myself with people who wouldn't support me. So there is that. I mean, when I say I'm lucky with friends, I have probably 15 amazing friends I could call at any second. They would be there for me. So really amazing, amazing women.
That's a gift.
Oh, trust me, I'm thankful every single day. Some friends I've known my entire life, some since second grade, high school, middle school, that I'm still in touch with, college, and then my adult life now. I mean, it's just, I'm so grateful for that. I think the sore spot would be romantic relationships and that support. And maybe that's where the Taylor Travis thing comes in, because I've never really had that until I feel like is now. I've felt that at certain points in every relationship, but then it dwindles because I'm extremely like ambitious and hardworking. And in the beginning, that looks and sounds really great. Like, oh, I want a girl just like you. Like, you're very ambitious. Like, you're hardworking. You do this, you do that. You're a great mom. But then in almost every relationship, it morphs somehow. I'm not quite sure how yet into that they want my life to completely revolve around them when that was never, there was just not a good meeting of lives, I guess. And I'm really not the kind of person, I don't think, that my life will ever completely revolve around one person. I'm a mom. I have goals and dreams and places I want to travel and things I want to do. So in my mind, I guess this traditional relationship will never happen in that way, which is okay. But they've eventually wanted something like that.
Mm.
So it's like they liked my passion and ambition, and then it became the object of contention. And I don't feel that way in my current relationship. But I've also, my current boyfriend I've known for about 10 years, but we've only been dating for 5 months or so. So we do know each other, but so it's still relatively new. And usually in that pattern that I've seen in the past, it takes like 3 years.
I think a lot of men are threatened by a strong, independent woman.
Which is so, like, come on, guys. Like, just get it together. I'm just so over that. Like, why? Like, are you so sensitive in your masculinity? These days, I just have hardly any tolerance for it. I just don't. Then don't be a part of my life in any capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't. I really have no tolerance for it, honestly.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. And your dream is echoing that. Your dream is saying, here's this relationship where that's not what's happening.
Right.
Right. That relationship in your dream is actually representing how you see the world around you, which is weird, right? Because you know that it's an edge for you. You know it's a growth edge. You know you've had a lot of relationships that have followed that pattern that is not what you want. You know you found a lot of weak men that can't just meet you at your edge.
Yeah.
You know, they can't handle that. But you see this relationship and it's showing you this is real and it is possible. Part of it is drawing on your own inner resources. You know you've got that, right? You're rock solid in here.
Right.
In your heart, which is incredible. That is so beautiful. And that's like maybe the most important level of meaning in this dream is telling you how much you've grown on that. But do you agree that it's possible that those two could break up?
Absolutely. Anybody can break up at any time.
Right. And what do you think is the value of holding ideals in life? Do you believe in having ideals?
That's a great question.
It's a big question.
I know. I mean, yes and no. I always want something to hope for and look forward to, but I used to be a big planner of life, and I don't do that anymore.
Little girl, did you plan your
no.
wedding?
I planned every detail of my life.
Including your wedding?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And thought if I did X, Y, and Z, it would equal this. Like life was a math equation. So I went to college. I was raised very Christian, so I was very dedicated to my faith. I went to college. I did everything I thought was right to get the life that I wanted. And life is not a math equation, it turns out. And so now I think of it just totally differently. And I'm really trying to just be way more present and have more short-term goals than long-term goals, because you never know. When I took the aviation job in Alaska, I did not anticipate that ever. I bought my dad's flight school and I learned so much from that experience, but I'm so glad I'm not doing that anymore. And so I would never in a million years could have anticipated that being part of my journey, but it was. And so what else in my future could be part of my journey that I have no idea I could anticipate? So I just have kind of resigned myself to a lot of that. Not in a bad way, but sometimes like you don't know what good and bad is going to happen in your life. So,
Or what's going to lead to what, or who you're going to meet. But it sounds like you're trying to be more than do, which is one of my big life challenges and always has been. And Thomas is trying to help me with learning more how to be, because he's much better at being than I am. I think it's a better way to live. You know, it sounds like it's leading you where you need to be.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I got a compliment in there I didn't deserve.
Yes, you did. You deserve all the compliment.
No, I am very good at being, but I'm a lazy ass though.
That's why you guys are perfect for each other.
To teach him how to do, and he teaches me how to do.
It is pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gave a beautiful answer when I asked you about ideals. And essentially what you said is, I'm past that. I understand the world doesn't work like that, so I don't put people on a pedestal. Well, then what's going on with Travis and Taylor in this dream if you don't put people on a pedestal?
I think it's just exciting to think about the possibilities.
And if their relationship collapses, you'll move on.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, I might shed one little tear, but you just blah, but
It doesn't matter.
no, it won't matter. And it it is inconsequential to my life completely. But, like I said, I love love. So you want to see people happy. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've got this pretty much wrapped up in a bow now, and it's just all really, really good stuff. So when we have something that we really believe in, I use the metaphor of calling that my North Star. You follow it, but you're going to take a winding path, and you will never touch it. It guides you. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so it's like that's what I see symbolized by this relationship in your dream. It's like you absolutely have a grounded wisdom now from a lot of hard-earned life experience that the world does contain love. The world does contain unconditional support. That you've brought yourself to a place of thriving based on those beliefs, on that worldview. But you know that things don't last forever. They change, they get complicated, but that can still be your North Star, and it is.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's true.
And that's probably a big part of the beautiful relationship you have with your boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a great relationship with my son. I mean, he's 14, so everything I do right now is absolutely cringy. Even talking. I mean, it's just an interesting phase we're in right now, but we do have a great relationship and lots of humor, and he just amazes me every day. So very, very thankful to be a mother and have experienced that in this lifetime.
I'm really happy for you. The dimension of this we haven't explored at all, which I'm sure is also going to yield meaning, is the whole part of your family rather than this kind of super conscious relationship between these two celebrities. So your mom thought that the flowers and poem that Taylor wrote to Travis actually were coming for your family from your deceased grandmother.
Yes.
What was her emotional vibration in the dream when she was dealing with that? Was she in denial? Was she sad? Was she super happy and upbeat? Like, what emotion do you pick up thinking back on that?
She was happy at first that the flowers, she thought the flowers came from grandma. Then she was like defensive because I'm like, Mom, these are not from grandma. And in my dream, I didn't say she was dead or anything, but it's almost as if she was alive somehow and sent them. So I was like, I know for sure these are not from grandma, Mom. And she was like, why, so then she got kind of defensive. Like, why do you think that? I'm like, well, look at this poem, this like coded poem. These are obviously for Travis.
And it was something that Taylor would do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know her, but
Curious about the coding of the poem.
yeah.
Actually.
Well, a lot of her music, and I'm not a Swiftie like some people are, so don't quote me on this, but she does a lot of different coding on her songs and stuff. Like she'll capitalize certain letters and do some different things. I don't even know all of it because I'm not that much of a Swiftie. That's like really, really Swiftie. I just kind of like things that can respect her a lot. So that would be something she would do, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
why would it have to be coded?
Because she likes to keep people on their toes, and it's fun to keep people curious and communicate with her fans in different ways. Just really
Makes
interesting.
life more exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's something apparently you like to do too.
I don't code things, but I leave like notes in weird places around the house for my boyfriend. But I have no idea when he's going to find them. Then he finds them like a month later and is like, oh, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I even did that.
this whole thing about the coding, you like to keep people curious and engaged.
I care about people, but I don't care about keeping people curious unless it's probably like Abbott or my boyfriend,
Yeah.
like the two closest people to me.
Absolutely.
Well, it's just her and him. I mean, she was doing this for him.
Right.
So
I love to surprise them. Like I surprised Abbott with a puppy 4 years ago. He cried and I cried. It was precious. We have a pug named Charlie, and he'd always wanted a pug. I mean, it's just amazing. So I love keeping them on their toes as far as surprises goes. So I am constantly planning surprises.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fun. So if there's missing pieces in life, do you have that positive feeling towards it? You know what I mean? Because this poem came with pieces missing.
Interesting. I did not, obviously did not think of the dream in all these different ways that you guys always are so good at illuminating. I do really have an outlook on life that is like, you have to think positive about those missing pieces because, I mean, what else are you going to do?
Well, I mean, maybe let's look at it the other way. Let's look at it the optimistic way. You do think positively, as near as I can see,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was waiting to see you kind of like, what would you say? What feedback would you give? It seemed obvious from the stream that you do think positively about those things and that it's a great source of resilience for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I would say that was one of my superpowers for sure.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay. So we're getting to something that might be really deep and meaningful, or it might not. We'll see, which is the whole thing with your grandmother.
Yes.
Your mother is another superconscious aspect. This is interesting. You have more than one or two superconscious aspects in a single dream. So she represents something really important that's much more like a longer established view than either Travis or Taylor represent
Mhm.
within your worldview. So why don't you share with us the first few words that come to mind when you think of your mom? This is honesty time. This is a trust tree.
Oh,
Anything you don't want in this episode, we can take out.
my mom is very quirky and she's such a sweetheart. And she also has some pretty significant mental health challenges.
Biochemical or more like because of trauma or both?
Oh, probably both. Yeah.
Started when she was young or when she was a teenager or when she was in her 20s or
Yeah. So schizophrenia didn't start until later in life.
much later or like in the 20s?
No, like 60s.
Oh,
Yeah.
so this is like a new issue in your family.
Relatively new in the last like 10 years or so.
Do you feel like that was biochemical or was it like the mounting of all the different life experiences and traumas and stuff and it finally reached a tipping point?
That's a good question. I really don't know.
That's something to give some thought.
Yeah.
Just based on the stream, I think
Mhm.
that's one next action the stream is trying to say. Sit with that.
Yeah.
Spend a little time thinking about your mom like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then growing up, she was a single mom. She put herself through nursing school with 2 kids after
Super
my parents'
impressive.
divorce. Yeah, she's very strong. But then worked a lot, had a lot of health issues. And like I said, I was very parentified in that relationship. So, and still, to some degree.
Which is super inappropriate. It's a huge transgression of boundaries. And also, how would you be Missy Lee if you hadn't been?
Correct. So that's what I've had to kind of look back on and be like, okay, how has this made me who I am? And how does this still affect me? And really, I think when you become a parent, you think way differently of your childhood and stuff. And you really try to not do to your children the things that were done to you. So that is a big learning there. And also just accepting the past for the past. It is what it is. It's made me who I am. And I love my mom very much, and we have a good relationship. So,
And you can keep your heart open,
yeah.
which is pretty damn impressive. So, okay, your mom thought that the poem and flowers were from your grandmother.
Mhm.
For her or for your family, either one. Okay. The point is, she thought she was a recipient of
Right.
this demonstration of love and care and affection,
Right.
but she wasn't.
She wasn't.
Why do you think she might have misunderstood that? So, what I'm saying is, think about your actual grandmother now. Why would she have been looking for that kind of a gesture from her mom?
So my grandmother was very important in our lives. She lived with us after my grandfather passed for many years when I was in high school. So she moved from Alaska to Colorado to live with us. My mom took care of her for many years full time. So maybe she was looking for some recognition for that.
Which she wasn't recognized for, in your view?
I mean, by our immediate family, but maybe she didn't feel recognized outside of that. I'm not sure.
This is deep, and we don't need to go any deeper than you feel okay with.
Yeah. Well, my mom is something that makes me crazy about her is she does talk about the past in a negative way. Like, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of stuff. And I'm like, Mom, maybe in another life, but you've made the decisions you've made and you need to she actually has a very loving husband now, and she never even really dated. She didn't, I mean, my dad and her were divorced for 20 years before she really dated somebody, but she's in a very loving relationship now that she never could have really imagined. And I'm so incredibly thankful for him and for their relationship. But she has a lot of regrets, some of them very minor and some of them bigger. And then I have to just remind her that it's okay to have regrets, but
You don't want to hold on.
no, let it go. It's,
Mhm.
you gotta let stuff go. And I work on that as well, but
Because this dream's about you, right? It's not your mom.
I just remember me, I forget.
Basically, what I take from all that is that there is still a part of your worldview that feels fairly wounded
Mm-hmm.
and really feels that it's entitled to recognition because it was victimized,
Mm-hmm.
to be seen. Like, look at all this stuff that I had to endure. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But you're making very different choices because the flowers didn't come to that part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? They went
That's interesting.
right. And so that's you. That is not happenstance. That's your willpower in action in your life. You are choosing this more positive worldview instead of your older worldview.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
Isn't it amazing?
Yes. Oof.
You need to teach lessons on how to do that.
Mhm.
I'm totally serious. That is probably a big part of what you do intuitively with your students. You should find a space to do that with adults because they're the people that need it. And oftentimes even more than kids because they are ossified and stuck
Mm.
in unhelpful patterns that are making them miserable.
Right.
And you know how to do this. You have this secret formula that other people badly need.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was listening to Tony Robbins once, and he said something that completely also changed my life because I had the courage to follow through with it. But he said, you are one decision away from living a completely different life. And at the time, I was in a very toxic relationship with my ex-husband. And that was that saying that made me make a different choice. And I was able to leave that relationship because I did everything I very possibly could to make that work for years. So I was actually able to ethically, in my mind, leave that behind at that point. And so all it takes is one decision, and it is your life. You're in charge of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that. They place the blame externally, but it really all comes from within. It is a choice, but
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's an easy choice,
Yes.
to make, but
There's hard choices to make in this life for sure, but you're stuck with all of them, whichever ones you make and don't make. And it creates this life. But I'm so thankful. There's another quote that's like, I can't remember who said it, but I think there's no such thing as losing, there's only learning. And so if you approach life, every stop, whatever that is, whatever phase you're in, whatever season you're in, if you're learning from that, just enjoy the good ones and get through the bad ones because you will get through it. No one usually stays in a terrible situation unless they're choosing that for forever.
Right.
Most situations we're in are somewhat temporary. You might feel like they're forever, but you have to take agency over your own life.
mhm.
And you've done that. And should you so choose, this worldview that you have worked so hard to develop and that you now own, it lays the groundwork for you to basically do anything.
That's exciting.
Pretty cool.
Can't wait.
Well, we'll be excited to see what develops. But thank you for being on with us today, Missy. And we just love this conversation. And it's wonderful to see that it meant something for you.
Thank you. It did for sure. Always does. There's never a time when I'm talking to you about my dreams where it's not so incredibly meaningful. And it really has helped me so much because it always is illuminating every time to something I never would have ever even imagined or thought of. And so to know that this is like part of who I am coming out in a form of a dream and then seeing the deeper meaning and version of that, it's so amazing. And what you guys do is so meaningful because this is, I feel like, a whole untapped resource of so many people's lives that they're not understanding. And you guys are helping people do that. So thank you guys for what you do.
Oh, that was beautifully said. And I really appreciate that because I agree with you that it is just an untapped potential for so many people that we have access to every night.
Yep.
Well, you're welcome. It is an absolute pleasure and an honor. And yeah, I hope we keep learning together.
Me too.
You can find this podcast on all popular streaming services. Email us a dream today at contact@dreamspeak.us. Check out our YouTube channel for a free introductory dream course. Connect with DreamSpeak for even more learning. Our socials are in the description. Our theme music was composed by me, Rika. This podcast does not constitute medical advice. If you have concerns about your well-being, talk to your doctor or a mental health professional.